Okay, folks, on today's show, we have a lot to get to because Donald Trump just gave one of the greatest press conferences in American history. He talked more in this press conference than Joe Biden has for 4 years, and he actually said coherent words, which I know we're not used to it. So I feel kind of spoiled, to be honest with you. We'll get to that. We'll get to Mark Zuckerberg and all the fallout from his announcement that he's killing the idiotic fact-checking programs that have been used as censorious tools. We'll get to Middle East policy from the Biden administration. Let's start with this press conference because, man, oh man, this was a doozy. And it was wonderful in so many ways. So first, I just have to show you a map of what America is going to look like under Donald Trump. It's a map of what America is going to look like. So there you see it. The United States. Okay, you also see the Gulf of America. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, hold up a second. Isn't that the Gulf of Mexico? No, it isn't. It isn't anymore. Donald Trump is going to instruct the federal government to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And I am here for it. It's fantastic. If you look at that map, about 65% of the coastline along the Gulf of Mexico is in America. So screw it. That's our Gulf, my friends. That is the Gulf of America. Here's Donald Trump announcing.
And we're going to be announcing at a future date pretty soon. We're going to change because we do most of the work there and it's ours. We're going to be changing sort of the opposite of Biden, where he's closing everything up, essentially getting rid of $50 to $60 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
Yes! Yes. My friend Matt Walsh has suggested that we also rename the moon, to which I say, abso-freaking-lutely, we should rename the moon. It's our moon. We put a flag on it. We were there first. Ours. Not China's moon, not Russia's moon, our moon. Deal with it. We need to annex the moon immediately. But actually, really, I think it's pretty amazing that we're renaming the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. I think it's great. And who's gonna stop us? Mexico? Sure. They can't even balance a budget or stop the cartels from running their country. So the answer there is no. But that's not the only thing on the manifest destiny agenda list for the Trump administration that I am loving. I'm loving. Donald Trump has now deployed the Crown Prince, Don Jr., to Greenland because that is the next American territory. Go back to our map there for a second. Just want to show you the map. Look how big the United States is going to be. You see right north of us, there's this country that used to be called Canada. Well, as we know, President Trump has been talking about making it the 51st state. And I know that Justin Trudeau is out there tweeting how it'll never be the 51st state. But he has no say in the matter because when we invade, he will be shipped to the Panama Canal to work the Panama Canal. Don't worry, I'll get to the Panama Canal in just a second. That's right. More America is better. It's as you can see on this map, Trumpland, which is huge. Trumpland used to be called Greenland. It will be renamed Trumpland, and it will be made in inherited fiefdom of the Trump family, I would assume. In actuality, we really should actually take Greenland, though, because Greenland actually is quite a vital place territorially. The United States actually spends on the military defense of Greenland. Like right now, we have military bases in Greenland. We use Greenland's northern border in order to protect Arctic shipping. Right now, it is supposedly and officially Danish territory. It is home to the U.S. military's Pituffik Space Base. And of course, it's very important because as ice melts in the Arctic Circle, there are brand new North Atlantic shipping lanes that have drawn interest from Russia and China, and Denmark ain't doing a thing about it. So either Russia and China are going to have impact there, or we are going to have impact up there. Arctic shipping has increased, according to Forbes, 37% over the past decade. Also, the island is part of the strategically important Greenland-Iceland-UK gap, a choke point Russian ships actually have to transit to travel from the Arctic Ocean to the Atlantic. Also, Greenland has a bunch of untapped mineral resources. Those include coal, zinc, copper, iron ore, diamonds, and oil. And a lot of the island has not been explored. There are only about 60,000 people on the island in total. And actually, the United States, believe it or not, does have a pretty good historic claim to Greenland. I'm going to go through the history. I know you weren't expecting a history of Greenland, but you're going to get a potted history of America-Greenland relations because actually, quite seriously, we should purchase Greenland. Here's President Trump on this matter.
We need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen. We're not letting it happen. And if Denmark wants to get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States.
He is correct about that. He is correct about that. The people of Greenland have been talking about independence for a very long time. If that were to happen, they would realign with the United States in a heartbeat. First of all, it's better to live in the United States than it is to live in a principality of Denmark. Second, as far as security concerns with Russia and China, Denmark ain't going to defend those Arctic straits. You think Denmark is going to go up against the Russians or the Chinese? If that is a matter of national security for the United States, why not sell Greenland to the United States if you are Denmark? And by the way, the United States discovered like half of Greenland. I'm just going to point that out here. When he says it's not clear what the historic sort of preserve of Denmark is in Greenland, he is actually correct about this. So back in 1775, to give you the potted history of Greenland, Denmark and Norway declared Greenland a colony. Greenland was then formally transferred from Norway to Denmark by a treaty of 1814. Denmark started trying to colonize the island in the 1880s. But here is the thing. A huge chunk before the 1880s was actually discovered by, wait for it, Americans. It was American Charles Francis Hall, who was the first to see Northwest Greenland during the Polaris expedition, which was 1871 to 1873. And another explorer named Robert Peary actually claimed much of the North. The only reason that Denmark has any claim whatsoever to Greenland, as far as the United States is concerned, is because when the United States was interested in purchasing the Danish West Indies during World War I, Denmark required the country to recognize its claim over the whole island of Greenland at the time. Peary, the explorer who discovered much of it and claimed much of it, opposed the U.S. giving up the claim because he said, hey, the Monroe Doctrine says no European interference in the Western Hemisphere. Instead, he suggested, correctly, that we should have purchased the island outright. And then, as it turns out, by the way, we basically had to do it anyway in terms of defending the island because, as you will recall, if you remember your world history, by the early 1940s, Denmark had been conquered by, wait for it, the Nazis. And so once that happened, the United States basically had to defend Greenland as its own principality because it was the only known significant source of a material called cryolite. And because Germany was attempting to use the North Atlantic as a base during the war, during World War II, the United States actually did apply the Monroe Doctrine on European colonies in the North Atlantic Ocean. By 1946, the Joint Chiefs of Staff had listed Greenland and Iceland as essential international locations for American bases. In fact, when NATO was in its heyday, Greenland was seen as more important to both American and Canadian defense than some of the Western European countries. Because, again, if you take a look at a map, when you get up to the very, very north of Canada, which is, say, the North American continent, it starts to get pretty close to territory that is controlled by Russia. In 1951, Greenland and the United States signed a treaty that gave the United States exclusive jurisdiction over defense areas within Greenland. So again, there's a very, very solid case that the United States actually ought to buy Greenland. Okay, but we're not stopping there, folks. Again, let's go back to our map. So on this map, I did not label Panama. Panama's actually to the south of that territory there that's called the other side of the wall. And you know, it's west of the territory that I've labeled there, the anti-European moat. Used to be called the Atlantic Ocean. It will now be known as the anti-European moat to prevent the Europeans from coming over here and bringing their terrible economic and social ideas. In any case, President Trump has made clear that he does not want the Panama Canal to be controlled by the Chinese. And this is a real concern. Okay, people are making fun of this sort of stuff, but actually it's a real concern. Yeah, he's half joking when he's making fun of Justin Trudeau and talking about making Canada the 51st state and all of that sort of stuff. But the Greenland thing is actually a fairly serious proposal. And when it comes to the Panama Canal, there really is a serious problem with the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal was built with American labor. It was built with American money. It was turned over idiotically by one of our worst presidents, Jimmy Carter, during the Carter administration. That was a stupid move. The Panama Canal has run significantly worse since the turnover to Panama. But it's not just that. The Panamanians have actually turned over both ends of the canals to Chinese companies. If you've ever visited Panama, I have been down there. I have visited the Panama Canal. It's not all that wide. It's relatively narrow, particularly at the entrance and exit. And so it'd be very easy for those companies, these Chinese companies, to shut off the entrances and exits to the Panama Canal. And 40% of all American container traffic goes through the Panama Canal. That's a lot of American commerce that's moving through the Panama Canal. That's the reason we built it in the first place. Which would mean that if the United States were ever to get into a conflict with China, pretty much all shipping would stop dead because China would try to take control of the Taiwan Strait. They would try to take control of the Strait of Malacca, which is sort of the tip of the South China Sea. That would shut off another shipping route. And if they could shut off shipping in the Western Hemisphere, they could absolutely cripple the American economy. China shutting off the shipping, that's a major, major issue. And there's a lot of economic uncertainty these days. Smart investors are paying attention to the signs. With increased tariffs reshaping our trade relationships and sweeping changes to taxes and regulations, one investment vehicle has stood the test of time: gold. That's why I'm excited to tell you about a groundbreaking resource from my trusted partner, Birch Gold Group. They've just released the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era, featuring an exclusive forward by Donald Trump Jr. The numbers don't lie. Our national debt keeps climbing, with it the interest payments that burden our economy. In these challenging times, gold is still your hedge against a weakened dollar. And Birch Gold is still the company I trust to help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Text BEN to 989898 for your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There is no obligation, only information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of happy customers, you too can trust Birch Gold. Text my name, Ben, to the number 989898 today. Ask all of your questions, and then when you feel ready, invest in precious metals with my friends over at Birch Gold. Again, go check them out by texting my name, Ben, to the number 989898 today. Also, I used to think restless nights, that those are just a part of life, the tossing and the turning and the waking up with a sore back. I thought that's how people just normally slept. And then I discovered the magic of Helix Sleep. Game changer, because it turns out that the mattress is personalized to use. Just like your coffee, you need a mattress that's made just for you. What makes Helix different is they don't sell you that random mattress. The one where you go to the mattress store and you lie down on the mattress for like 7.3 seconds, like it's fine, and then you sleep on a bad mattress for the next 20 years. Instead, they actually match you with the perfect mattress for your body and sleep style. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or somewhere in between, they've got you covered. And trust me, when you find the right match, you'll wonder how you ever slept on anything else. Right now is actually the perfect time to upgrade your sleep because Helix is offering an incredible deal. Head on over to helixsleep.com/Ben to get 25% off site-wide, plus 2 free dream pillows with any mattress purchase. That's helixsleep.com/Ben for 25% off site-wide, plus 2 free dream pillows with any mattress purchase. Again, check them out right now at helixsleep.com/Ben and get the 25% off site-wide, plus the 2 free dream pillows with any mattress purchase. Gordon Chang, an author writing for Newsweek, points out the serious risks over at the Panama Canal. He says, it's true there are no uniformed People Liberation Army soldiers now stationed in the canal zone, but that's not the end of the story. Almost certainly there are Chinese operatives and military personnel in civilian garb there. The Panama Canal is a choke point that Beijing seeks to control and undoubtedly close off in the moments before the next global war. For instance, C.K. Hutchison Holdings, through its stake in Panama Ports Company, operates a port in Balboa at the Pacific end of the canal and in Cristobal at the Atlantic end of the canal. Hutchison, therefore, is the biggest port operator in the zone. The Panama Maritime Authority renewed Hutchison's 25-year concession to the 2 ports in June of 2021. Now, Hutchison is supposedly a private company in Hong Kong, but as you'll recall, the Chinese took over Hong Kong, which means that every company that is being operated from Hong Kong is under the thumb of the Chinese Communist Party. In times of war, those facilities would be controlled by the People's Liberation Army. General Laura Richardson, who is the head of the U.S. Southern Command in July 2022, said in Aspen, quote, I was just in Panama about a month ago, flying along the Panama Canal, looking at all the state-owned enterprises from the PRC on each side of the Panama Canal. They look like civilian companies or state-owned enterprises that could be used for dual use and could be quickly changed over to a military capability. R. Evan Ellis, professor of Latin American Studies at the U.S. Army War College, said, quote, there are numerous ways a knowledgeable actor like the PRC, its companies and agents, could temporarily shut down the canal. The risk does not come so much from the physical control of ports on both sides of the canal, but the knowledge and access that comes from China's significant commercial and other activities across Panama. That gives China bases from which to act. Also, China is embedded into the zone's infrastructure, including telecom systems that were supplied by, wait for it, Huawei, which is the Chinese official telecom association that basically embeds all sorts of intelligence apparatus inside the internet. Surveillance cameras and other equipment has been provided by Hikvision, which again is a Chinese company. There's another bridge over the canal, and China's building that one as well. So, serious problems in the Panama Canal. Here's President Trump talking about the Panama Canal.
The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it.
Yes, yes, great. Very good Trump. Very, very good Trump. This is best Trump. This is excellent. It is just an added benefit, by the way, that's taking off the entire left-wing media. Like, no, the hue and cry. No, there can't be more America. We can't talk about expanding America. We have to talk about contracting American territory. We have to do land acknowledgments. That's the most important thing. This is crazy. We can't do this stuff. This is bad. Here is CNN whining.
One of the biggest things that stood out to me from that press conference, from moments when Trump got out there before he even started taking questions, is the level of anger.
He's really agitated.
Well, we know why. He made it quite clear a few moments in. It's two things. It's his legal issues overall, but it's the sentencing that he is facing on Friday that so far is still, Judge Merchan has denied efforts to delay it. His attorneys are still working to do so. And two, it's this report by Jack Smith that we are told is imminent and is going to come out.
It is remarkable. Somebody who is 2 weeks from resuming the presidency of the United States, who, whether you voted for him or not, whether you like him or not, just engineered a remarkable historical political comeback, is so whiny and so full of grievances. Now, that is Donald Trump's trademark. That has been his trademark since he came down that escalator. He uses grievance to keep his people together, to keep his base together, and to keep his team loyal.
Ugh, you want to talk who's whining? You guys are whining. I'm sorry you lost, but you did. Meanwhile, by the way, over at the Washington Post, Philip Bump has an entire column titled, "Trump Takes America First to its Expansionist Endpoint." Oh, no. No, we must never talk about the Gulf of America. That's bad, because you see, America's bad. And the more things we name after America, the worse it is. Quote, "The Gulf of Mexico has been named the Gulf of Mexico since before the United States of America was named the United States of America," says Philip Bump. Since, that is, before there was a United States of America. You can see that name used on old maps, like the one produced in France in 1717. George Washington wasn't born until more than a decade after that map was made. And yet, in a few months, the Gulf might carry a new name, at least in the eyes of a U.S. officialdom, the Gulf of America. This isn't a reorienting of geography, akin to when Trump, during his first term in office, drew a black line on a map of the southeastern United States. It is instead part of a much less innocuous pattern, one that has Trump extending his America First mantra to suggest that this nation has dominion over territory it doesn't currently control. Oh, no. No. It said no. Okay, let's be clear about this. America's manifest destiny was a good thing. It is very good that America spans coast to coast. That is a wonderful thing. If America were to buy Greenland, that would also be a wonderful thing. If America were to either convince Panama to better control the Panama Canal, to take it out of Chinese hands, or to give it over to American control, that would be a very good thing. If Canada were to get rid of Justin Trudeau and elect Pierre Poilievre, then I suppose all the threats of invasion go away. But let's be real about this. The reason Canada is great is because America is great. That is the reality. They're completely dependent on the American economy. They're completely dependent on America's force of arms. Again, that doesn't mean we have to annex every place that's near us. Doesn't mean that we have to take every place over, and we won't. But if a country like Greenland is willing to allow itself, and Denmark is willing to allow it, to be used as a thoroughfare by the Russians and the Chinese, what exactly are we supposed to do? Sit there for that? If the Panama Canal is going to be used as a choke point by the Chinese, are we just supposed to sit there and do nothing about it? What exactly is the plan? My dude, what is the plan, guys? And the answer is there is no plan. It's just to whine about America. Whine about America. Justin Trudeau, by the way, is very angry at the suggestion that he would become governor of the 51st state. At this point, by the way, that is his best political path forward, since he's not going to be prime minister for much longer. He tweeted out, "There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. Workers and communities in both our countries benefit from being each other's biggest trading and security partner." Well, I mean, that actually is a pretty solid case for why we should annex you. But in any case, even if we were to annex you, don't worry. You wouldn't end up in Canada. We'd ship you down to Panama so you can work that canal. We need somebody who's going to be working the canal. And Justin Trudeau isn't going to have anything better to do. That wasn't all that Trump had to say at this magnificent press conference. I loved it. It was just great. So, on foreign policy, he was asked about what he is going to do if the hostages are not freed by Hamas by the time he takes office in just 13 days. And here was President Trump's answer.
That all hell must be paid if they don't release the
You know what that
hostages.
means, don't you?
Well,
do I have to define it for you? Look, all
No, I know
hell
you're not
will
gonna
break out.
telegraph
If
what-
those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Can you elaborate?
And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them. There should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget that. But there was, and many people are killed. They're no longer hostages. I have people from Israel and others calling, begging me to get, we had also people there from the United States, just so you know. They're holding some so-called hostages from the U.S.
This, Joe Biden never had any moral clarity about this because he's a fool. Donald Trump has moral clarity about this. And this is the correct approach. If Hamas is not afraid, they're not releasing the hostages. It is that simple. There's nothing else that is going to make them release the hostages other than dire threats and action and allowing Israel to do exactly what it needs to do in the Gaza Strip. Okay, and then Trump was asked about the possibility of a preemptive strike on the Iranian nuclear facilities if they were to ramp up their nuclear production. And Trump gave the correct answer on this one too. Again, he gave more answers in this one press conference than Joe Biden has given in 4 years and said more intelligent things in this press conference than Joe Biden has ever said his entire career because Joe Biden was, is, and will be a dullard. And here is President Trump explaining that if Iran were to attempt a nuclear weapon, he's not going to tell you what he would do because he's the president and he's not going to tell some dumb reporter what he's going to do because it's a stupid question. That is correct. That is right.
The U.S. launching a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities.
And I said, I don't talk about it. It's a military strategy.
But it is a legitimate question. It's something that
Well, it's not really, because only a stupid person would answer it. Look, it's a military strategy, and I'm not answering your questions on military strategy.
Yes, correct. This is good. And speaking of other good things, President Trump also had some words about Joe Biden's attempts to shut down drilling for oil off pretty much all of America's eastern seaboard on his way out. And Trump says, look, in America, we like to produce energy. American energy independence has made us less dependent on some of the worst places in the world. That is a good thing. And Joe Biden is throttling America's energy independence. Here was President Trump on this.
He wants all gas heaters out of your homes and apartments. He wants them to be replaced by essentially electric heaters. I don't know what it is with electric. This guy loves electric. We're going to be ending the electric car mandate quickly, by the way. This guy loves electric. And we don't have enough electricity. And then we have AI where we need more. And he wants everybody to have an electric heater instead of a gas heater. Gas heater is much less expensive. The heat is much better. It's a much better heat. As the expression goes, you don't itch. Does anybody have a heater where you go and you're scratching? And that's what they want you to have. They don't want you to have gas where you don't have the problems of the electric.
It's the best. It's so good. It's just the best.
I've often said that gender-affirming care is health care, it is mental health care, and it can actually be suicide prevention care.
I think I'm gonna take some medicine so I can kind of like transform into a boy, get surgery.
After the surgery, I didn't really feel any better.
When it stopped being a thing for adults and it started to be a let's teach this to kids.
Total lie, manipulation, it's gaslighting.
Please stop. He's a boy, not a girl. How could she do this to my son?
What they're talking about is hormonal therapy or sex reassignment surgery on children.
I thought fixing me externally would fix me internally. But of course I was wrong.
The fact that the state thinks that they're more important and have a better say in what happens to your child over the actual parent's opinion is egregious.
Puberty blockers, surgeries, big money makers for hospitals, for physicians.
All I want to do is hold my son.
Are you asking me to lie to parents? And he said, yes.
This is a weaponized use of a parent's sympathy and caring and concern by the left to destroy your child.
Let's tell kids that maybe they can be the opposite sex. Maybe they actually are the opposite sex.
It is an evil thing to tell children that happiness lies on the other side of puberty blockers or double mastectomies.
The left so badly wants to blur these lines.
That's a 5-alarm fire.
It's criminal.